And Ella, if you could start the slides, that'd be great.
Sure. So I'm going to share my screen. Just let me know if that's visible.
That's
okay.
Perfect. Thank you. And so, hi, everyone. I am Hope Archibek. I am the development manager here at AISES. We'd like to welcome you to this webinar opportunity with our partners at National Science Foundation. We are thrilled to be working with NSF to provide some information about building skills to work directly with tech industries and some information surrounding a tech startup. And so a few housekeeping, I just want to say, I think with the webinar view, it should be in speaker view, but if you can't see our panelists or the slideshow, I would just say put it in speaker view so you can see what's going on, and then also utilize the Q&A portion because we will be monitoring that throughout the webinar and hopefully getting to all of your questions. And also, I already mentioned the webinar is being recorded, so if you do not want well, actually, sorry, with the webinar, cameras are not on, so there's no issue there. And then onto our ASUS announcements very quickly. I just wanted to announce highlight our leadership summit. It is in Temecula, California this year at the Pachanga Resort Casino. It's April 10th through 12th. So we are inviting professionals and our students. It's a smaller networking opportunity for our students. And then next slide, please. And our national conference, we are very excited to be hosting in Palm Springs, California. It is October 6th through 8th, so later this year. And that's opportunity for students there's a large college and career fair, to networking, professional sessions. So we're so excited about that. And then just on the right, we have our regional conferences coming up. So any students who are we had already some passed, so those ones are crossed out. But if you are in the areas to go to some regional conferences, I encourage you to visit our website and check those out. Next slide. And last but not least, our scholarship application is still open. So if you are eligible, I would encourage you all to apply to our scholarships, and the application closes May 31st. So keep an eye out on that deadline. And then for our college students, we have a college and career readiness webinar series. And actually our next series is today. So if you could make it on, I know that's short notice, but it's about networking today. And there's going to be some other awesome ones about mental health, job interviews, and then some end of the year activities. And I can also send out this information in a post email to all of our registrants if you need as well. But thank you. And I am so happy to pass on to our partners at NSF.
Great. Thanks for that, Hope. So I'm Ella Morawski. I'm one of the program directors in the Small Business Innovation Research Program at the National Science Foundation. We recently spun out of the engineering directorate into a new technology innovation and partnerships directorate. This happens once every 30 or so years at NSF. And so I'll be telling you a little bit about the TIP directorate, and then also what our programs are that can help you. I will then pass the baton on to my colleague, Narcisha Norman, who will be talking about diversity and inclusion. And then she'll pass the baton to Joel Schildbach, who will also talk about the GRFP program. So you're going to hear about a plethora of resources that NSF has to support you on your journey in STEM. So the U.S. National Science Foundation invests in a full spectrum of fundamental research, from exploratory, curiosity-driven research to use-inspired, solution-oriented research. Across the spectrum, NSF's investments have delivered incredible benefits to all of our communities. So we support all areas of science and engineering, ranging anywhere from the social, behavioral, and economic sciences all the way to the mathematical and physical sciences. So there are a lot of opportunities to explore and observe the world around us, and then also translate those observations into impact on our communities. So the challenges of our time demand that we rapidly scale these investments and build even stronger bridges between discovery, innovation, and commercialization. The Directorate for Technology Innovation and Partnerships also known as TIP, is an important first step towards addressing these challenges and building such a research and innovation ecosystem. Let's see, I think I skipped a slide there. Yeah, the challenges basically, there we go. So TIP will address a critical need to advance the geography of innovation, engaging communities throughout the country that for far too long have been unserved or underserved in the nation's research and innovation enterprise. TIP builds on an organizational culture of innovation and an extensive portfolio of existing programs that foster public and private partnerships to advance technological innovation and translation. TIP comprises 3 focus areas. The first one is fostering innovation ecosystems. Second is establishing translational pathways. And the third is partnering across sectors to engage the nation's diverse talent. The directorate works closely with the entire agency to leverage ongoing research investments and grow them at speed and scale, leading more rapidly to economic and societal benefits across the nation. TIP brings together teams of researchers, practitioners, and users to iteratively co-design and co-create game-changing technologies and solutions to address the nation's societal and economic challenges, as well as help to grow the future workforce. There are several existing programs, namely I-Core, PFI, Partnerships for Innovation, Small Business Innovation Research, and Convergence Accelerator that have been repositioned from the Engineering Directorate into the TIP Directorate. I'll be talking a little bit about each of these a little bit more as we move on. So we basically, our goal is to, as America's Seed Fund, which is also coined as the SBIR STTR program, but really we're starting to call it more America's Seed Fund. The goal is really to look at early stage ideas that could potentially be very disruptive and have significant societal benefit. NSF has invested in a very large research infrastructure, and a lot of very, very talented individuals and folks have developed technologies that are potentially ripe for being transferred over to create a significant impact in society. And so that's what we are here to do. So we have a budget of about $200 million per year to dedicate to companies that are fledgling and at their points of inception. Each company has the potential to be awarded up to $2 million in non-dilutive funding, which means in grants and cooperative research agreements that do not have to be paid back to the foundation. And so we fund across all various topic areas, including life sciences, materials and manufacturing, electronics, IoT, robotics, chemistry and environment, and information technologies. We also have photonics and semiconductors. And then my favorite is always other topics, because I really believe that transformational ideas can come from anywhere and can look different from what we have been used to seeing. Just to give you a little idea of our, avatar of the people that are applying to our program, more than half of all of our phase 1 proposals were from first-time applicants, meaning companies had never submitted a proposal to the National Science Foundation before. 95% of phase 1 awards in 2020 were awarded to startups with less than 10 employees. And 81% of phase 1 awards in FY 2020 went to startups that were established within the last 5 years. So hopefully you're getting an idea that we're really looking at the fledgling stages of the inception of taking, technology and creating that impact. And so some examples of our SBIR STTR companies include Musicology. So I'm just going to play a little video for you here, talking about something that we had funded and what they are about and what they're trying to do.
We started Musicology because we realized that many students struggle with learning, yet know the words to all their favorite songs. That's because music directly activates brain regions that are critical for successful learning. Our mission at Musicology is to enable all students to optimize their amazing potential.
With support from the National Science Foundation and the U.S. Department of Education, we developed Musicology, a digital gamified learning platform that teaches pre-algebra through math music videos designed to intentionally impart mathematical thinking. Identify the variable and then do the
natural numbers, whole numbers, integers and rational by classification. Rational numbers must meet these specifications.
The space where you graph points has a long name. It's called Cartesian coordinate plane. This coordinate plane comes to be when you draw the x and y axes. Coordinate plane like an old school map. Two coordinates pinpoint exactly where you're at. Two coordinates pinpoint exactly where you're at. X axis and y axis make four quadrants, and in this you plot coordinates to find out where all point is. Using an order pair. Using an order pair.
X axis this way, Y axis this way. Quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4.
So I've always thought as math was a really boring subject, but musology just makes math more fun.
It's like quick video, so it doesn't take that long.
I think it's very cool that in like 4 minutes you can learn what's usually taught in like 1 or 2 weeks.
When we found musology, everybody went up a few letter grades and we were all really happy about it.
I see so much excitement in these kids because they can now make 100 on a quiz.
Musology helped my grade go up. It really hypes me up. It helps me a lot.
The level of engagement is incredible. They are wanting and excited about learning math.
How could you learn your ABCs? Probably in a song if you're just like me. Turns out you can learn in a breeze, just like that with musology.
Sometimes I wouldn't do so good at my math test, but now that I got musology, I can feel the rhythm.
So hopefully that gave you a little flavor of, some of the success stories that are coming about from what we've been funding. Another example is Two Bears Consulting, and this is a consulting firm that's located in Alaska. They are developing integrated climate resilience index technology to be able to provide biophysical sensitivity indices that can represent a range of integrated climate risks, such as erosion, flooding, food security. And one of the important things here is that they're really trying to apply it to like local communities that are really suffering from climate change effects. And so there's a lot of indigenous populations in Alaska with all the ice melting and then some of the severe weather that's happening that really are suffering quite a bit. And this technology is to be used to really predict that, to help them really understand where they could potentially, locate that wouldn't have to be as disruptive to their communities and to their everyday lives. And I have another one, but for the sake of time, I'm going to kind of go into how does our program work. So we have 3 phases of funding. The first one is a phase 1, which is a feasibility research at 6 to 12 months. Actually, we have recently published a solicitation for the year that the funding rates are now actually $275,000. And this is really just to take your technology, your idea, what it is that you have, and what are the research problems that you're trying to solve to better understand and fill a knowledge gap that's out there in order to take a technology, move it to the community. The phase 2, so if you're successful in obtaining a phase 1 and completing all of the milestones, phase 2 is basically research towards a prototype, and this is where you could be awarded up to $1 million. And this is where you're really starting to try to prove out the technology and its ability to integrate and solve a problem in society. And then phase 2B is a third-party investment match. So you can, if you have revenue or if you can find somebody who's as excited as you are about your technology and wanting to support you with monetary funds, then you can also gain matching funds from our program. So how do you get started? Our website has a plethora of resources, and I often recommend starting there first and going over to the process overview, where it kind of covers the basics of our program, what to expect. To start engagement with our program, you first submit a project pitch where you talk about what your idea is, you talk about what the technical challenges are, and about what your unique approach to solving that challenge is. And then if you're, I'll tell you a little bit more about the pitch process, but from there it kind of ensues to the full proposal and review and final decisions. So the project pitch is a required component. It is the first sort of interaction that you have with a program director. We do have a lot of people applying to the program as it's open to the entire population of the United States. And so we don't have necessarily the capacity or bandwidth to have one-on-one interviews with each of you. So we do ask that you first do project pitch, and we also have weekly webinars that you can join to find out more about our programs. So what we look for impact. What's the potential, for your technology or idea to impact the world? We value the technological innovation. So what is this, the science and engineering, challenges that you're trying to solve in order to create the product? We're interested in the fact that there's somebody out there that needs it, and that you would be able to generate a sustainable business model on it, so that you could stand on your own two legs once NSF and the taxpayer funds that have been put into the program have been shared with you. How do you intend on being sustainable and keeping that company alive? And then of course we have eligibility. So those you can look up with the SBR. The company is supposed to be a small business, less than 500 employees, has to be majority owned by US citizens or permanent residents. The work has to be done in the United States. And then there is a minimum amount of work that the principal investigator must spend on the project, which is 2 months or 1 month for every 6 months, but they have to be employed at the company for 20 or more hours a week. We fund startups across nearly all areas of technology. You can see we have a lot of portfolios. They are meant to be a loose guide. We do not require you to fit into any certain topic, because again, I truly believe that innovative ideas come and sometimes they don't fit anywhere, but they're super disruptive and potentially, very, very beneficial to society. One thing is, if you're in the health related areas, we do not fund clinical trials or work on Scheduled I controlled substances. You can submit your pitch at any time to learn if your project is a good fit for the program, and you can access the portal on our website. You're limited to one project pitch under review at any given time, and you're limited to one project pitch per submission window. It takes us, we say approximately a month. That's because sometimes some of us will take time off to be with our families. And so we can't guarantee that we'd be able to turn around, the feedback super quickly. You can submit your pitch anytime at this website. So moving on to another program we have, it's called Partnerships for Innovation. And so this kind of ties back to the academic setting. So, those of you who are at university and researching, university researchers, and if you've had a history of NSF awards, this funding can be used towards prototyping at the university. And so the lead on that, where the lead on the seed fund is a company, it's a for-profit or for-benefit business. In this case, the lead would be the academic or nonprofit research institution. It does not require employment at a small business, and it's open to any technology area, again, that's covered by NSF. So this basically gives you some ability to sort of prove it out to the extent that then potentially somebody may come along and say, okay, we can now take this and bring it to the private markets as a product of a certain type that will address a specific pain point or problem. And it's coupled to what we call Innovation Core or I-Core. This basically it was a program that was put together to help train NSF funded faculty, students, and other research in innovation and entrepreneurship skills. And so really it kind of teaches you, okay, I've developed this, who could benefit from this, and why would they be benefiting from what I've developed? What would it look like if I were to finally make it into a product? What does it look like when it's going to be touching those people on the other side and helping in those various aspects? And so the other thing I always say is a benefit to this is that you also learn about what the business side is looking at. And so then you can learn how to communicate and understand. So even if you're not going to be the entrepreneur or the person who is going to lead the company, you now have the skill set to communicate with those folks and really be able to team up and work with them together. So our reach is fairly far. We have 9 nodes that involve 27 universities and 99 university sites across the United States. There are 8 other federal agencies that teach I-Core, to include like DOE and others. So far, we've had 1,600 NSF teams go through the program since 2013, and nearly 800 startups were created. What it isn't, as far as you're not selling, pitching, your business to anybody or business plans. What you are doing is you're getting $50,000 in a grant to be able to develop your team and develop a curriculum or a process focus to be able to engage stakeholders. So you're basically talking to people, you're doing customer discovery, you're reaching out to at least 100 potential people that would potentially either buy or support the production or dissemination of your product into the market. And of course, we always need mentors. And so I always say that those of you who have some skills in this area with entrepreneurship, feel free to reach out. We are happy to engage you. And then lastly, we have something that is called IPERF. So it's an Innovative Postdoctoral Entrepreneurial Research Fellowship. So these are for folks who are not yet ready to build a startup, but maybe they want to go work for one and see for themselves, get that sort of hands-on experience to be working in an industrial setting. And so the fellowships receive an annual stipend of about $78,000 per year to work at a startup of their choice that they have worked together with to be able to identify what position they would take at the company, what their tasks would be, and oftentimes it's a very collaborative kind of relationship. And so this one is a great way to experience, life in a startup without having to dedicate, the rest of your future to it. And with that said, I want to thank you for your attention here to learn more about the Technology Innovation Partnerships Division and also our seed fund. And so with that said, I think I'll pass the baton to Narcisha. We'll take questions at the end, let me quickly look at the chat while you get ready. And see, let's see. Okay, great. So thank you for those comments. We had cool videos, especially XY axis video. Thank you, Montoya, for that comment. And then Alex, you said I might need this with a smiley face. There was a river recently that swept an island away. Everyone had to move and relocate. Yes, thank you for sharing that. Those are very tragic events, and and livelihood and where people live is very, very important to us. We very much at NSF value the broader impacts that our technologies can do. So with that said, I'm going to pass along the baton to Narcisha. You could just tell me when you would like the slides to be forwarded. For some reason, it's slow. Okay.
A quick question. Are there age requirements? What are the age requirements was a question that just popped up.
Oh, great. So there technically are no age requirements. However, you would have to have at least some traction and ability to say that I have enough experience competitively in this area to be able to lead it. So typically as a PI, as a principal investigator, even, you may be 15, but it may be hard for you to compete against folks that are, past their either careers that have had a career and have had a lot of experience. And so that's just one thing. And I would reach out, at that point, I would submit the pitch and then see how your technology fits, and then we can go from there. But it doesn't, we don't say no, but we also don't, we want you to know what the landscape is in a competitive way. So.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm going to take things in just a little bit of a different direction. So I am a program director that works with the Racial Equity and STEM Education Program Description. And the purpose of our program description is to answer how systematic barriers impact access to and retention in and success in STEM. Next slide. So very quickly, a good thing to know about the program description is that it works across the Education and Human Resources Directorate, meaning that if you had a project in graduate education, if it was in informal, formal settings, if it was in undergraduate education or in human resource development, workforce development, across the gamut of what's related to education, you can find yourself eligible for the Racial Equity and STEM Education Program Description. We have 5 goals, and our goals are around advancing the science and promotion of racial equity. It's around contributing to removing systemic barriers that impacts them. It's about institutionalizing effective and inclusive environments for learning. It's also about diversifying the leadership in NSF proposals, meaning in the project leadership for PIs, co-PIs, institution ideas. It's also about expanding the perspective, epistemologies, and experiences in STEM. Next slide, please. So some important things to know when you're thinking about competitive proposals. For competitive proposals for the program description, it has to inform clearly how it advances racial equity. And we don't define racial equity in the program description. We allow those PIs to define what they mean by racial equity, but it also has to address systemic racism. So it's more than just broader impact. It has to talk about systemic advances. It's also very important for us that the proposals are led by the individuals and communities that's most impacted. And when it's not led by these individuals, it has to be led in authentic partnership. And what we mean by that is that their voices, their knowledge, and their experiences have to be within a proposal. And again, that's in the leadership, the research positions, especially in the dissemination of evidence and results, all of the decision-making and interpretation and conceptualization of a proposal. So throughout the entire proposal process from beginning to end, it's important that those voices are included. Next slide, please. So some of the nuts and bolts, we have 2 target dates. The target date is the 2nd Tuesday in October and the 4th Tuesday in March. And there are 2 ways of submitting those proposals, in research.gov or grants.gov. This is where I think some of the information was removed from the slide. Can you go back for a second? Yeah. You're muted, Ella.
Sorry, I'm not sure what went on, so I'm going to actually reload this because there is something not working out there.
Yeah, I sent the update when I saw that, but I didn't see the same mistake in the earlier slide, so I assumed it wasn't in the rest of them.
Yeah. All right. Hold on. So let me see if I can fix that. We have a couple of minutes. Maybe you could ask a couple of questions.
Yeah, and I can also talk about one option that we take very seriously, and that's their optional 1-page concept paper. So we have a lot of new PIs that apply for the racial equity PD also. And what we offer as a service and not a requirement is that you can submit a 1-page concept paper. And this talks us through your proposal or what your full proposal might look like. And we offer a consult for a program director that specializes in that field to give you an idea and some comfort with submitting that full proposal.
I'm almost there.
Okay, let me check for questions. The slides will be shared, and from what I understand, it's also recorded. So if you need to go back and look at it again, it will be recorded.
Okay, I think I've fixed it. So thanks for bearing with me on that. I'm going to share again. Yeah.
There's one question, Marcrisha, about regarding dates. I'm not quite sure which dates it's referring to, but what they were for.
They were target dates. So meaning the target date for the full proposal. Yeah, I think we were on slide 36.
Okay, I'll go back. So 36 is the dates. Yep.
Yes. So the full proposal target dates is the 2nd in October. And we call these target dates because you could submit a proposal at any time. But so if you submit it before the October target date, then your proposal will fall into that October review. So that's 2nd Tuesday in October. and that fourth Tuesday in March. Does that answer the question? Yeah, so it changes a little bit depending on the year, right, but not much. So again, the one-page concept paper is optional, but it's really helpful if this is, and a lot of NSF programs will accept a one-page concept paper. We just advertise that we welcome that one-page concept paper just to talk you through and make you feel more comfortable about your proposal. So basically what it is just being clear with respect to your concept, how your concept aligns. And we can look at the concept paper and have a conversation about what could potentially make it stronger or address any questions that you might have. Next slide, please. So, and we also have a phone number. So if you have quick questions, you're welcome to call us at the 703-292-5009. And we have someone that answers the questions and answers the voicemails. But you also can email us with any questions, including if you have that one-page concept paper, you're welcome to email us. So we do have on our website, we do have webinar slides, and we talk more about the program description in more detail. And we also are offering office hours soon, but we haven't decided on those yet. There's another point that I didn't include here, and that's about becoming a reviewer. So there's also a link on our website where you can select to become a reviewer. That's very helpful when you're trying to see what the process is like. And so please sign up to become a reviewer also.
Great. And I see in the Q&A, Alicia saying, I'm on the EHR racial equity webpage and clicked on browse projects funded by this program. This does not lead to WA webpage. Can you provide that link or follow up with projects that have been funded? Yes, this is a very new program. So our first target date was in fact July 2021. Some key things about the program description is because it's a program description, unlike a solicitation, there are no budget limits. And so you can propose as high a budget or as low a budget as long as it fits your, as long as it fits the projects. Keeping in mind that the average is between like 1 and 3 million. That's the average, but you can go above and below, and we look at all those equally. There are also no timelines. So the average proposal is from 3 to 5 years. However, we don't set those timelines for the program description, so you're welcome to go more or less. And yes, there are no previous awards because it's really a new program description, really a new funding opportunity. We did have our July target date, so we hope to announce awards soon. Great. I think the chat, let's see, those may have been SBIR ones. So I'll get back to those at the end of the presentation. Any other questions for Narcisha? I think it's one more. Yes, you can submit at any time. It's really helpful to submit that one pager as soon as possible because we have a queue of people that submit those, and to make sure that you get your one pager consulted before that target date comes up would be helpful. Great. And so then if we're good, we can always let you spend some time thinking about more questions for Narcisha, and we can move on to Joel, who's going to talk about the GRFP program, which also had some issues, I guess, with this this whole thing. So
I should stress that the slide has issues, but the program doesn't have any issues.
Yeah. It's called my merging capabilities, which clearly are at a loss. But the slides that we'll send out to everybody after this will be the ones that have that are fine. So I don't know why with the save it did this in the last minute. I have it available if you want to switch and I can share. Yeah, that would be great. I'll stop sharing. You can share and it'll be. Thank you all for your patience. Technology is great, and then it's also problematic. Yes. Oh,
and then I started from the beginning.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Norman. So while Dr. Norman was talking about one of the newer programs, I'll be talking about one of the programs that actually goes back nearly all the way to the formation of the National Science Foundation, and that's the Graduate Research Fellowship Program. And before we get into it, I just want to point out that what we covered here in the next few minutes, it's going to be relevant for just about everybody here. I noticed that we may have even some high school students here, certainly the undergraduates, and very early graduate students. This all applies to you because you are eligible to at least start thinking about applying, if not applying itself. And of course, if we have anyone who's mentoring on the call, we'll definitely want you to think about potentially writing letters of support or serving as a reviewer. So if I could go to the next slide. This is just a quick infographic to give you some information about the Graduate Research Fellowship Program, or the GRFP. As I mentioned, it's been around for a while. It's been running since 1952, and since the beginning, over 60,000 of these fellowships have been awarded. And they include, a couple of score of Nobel laureates and a number of folks who have gone on to be members of the National Academy of Sciences. So it's a prestigious award, and we like to think that we're funding some really exceptional people. About the award itself, so if you're thinking about graduate programs going on to study something in STEM, this fellowship will award a stipend of $34,000 a year for 3 years. And it also will come with a cost of attendance allowance that goes to the graduate school that you're attending. So if you have a fellowship, you not only get that stipend to live on, but this cost of education allowance is accepted in lieu of tuition by the university. It's part of the agreement. The fellowship extends for 3 years, and you have 5 years, this 5-year period, in order to take those 3 years of funding. Now, it's the competition's a bit stiff. We make around, or have been making in recent years, about 2,000 fellowship offers, but for those, we have about 12,000 applicants. But one of the features that we think is great about the fellowship is that there isn't any postgraduate study service requirement. So if you win one of these things, we hope you go on and do great things, but we're not going to tell you exactly how to do those things. We're not going to require any particular service out of you. We're going to talk a bit here about the application process, but just know that it's open to anybody who's going to be pursuing a research-based master's or doctoral program in an eligible field of study. And so on the lower right, you see a number of those fields of study. Of course, National Science Foundation, you would expect STEM to be represented in it, so things such as chemistry and physics, materials research, engineering. But it also extends to what you may not immediately think of when it comes to STEM. And that includes the social sciences, psychology, economics, political science. Also, this extends to people who are studying STEM education. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. So if you're thinking about applying, you should be aware of what goes into the application. And if you hop into the portal and start applying, the first thing you'll run into is a form that you need to fill out. It's sort of your personal profile, education, what degree granting programs you've been in, what work experience you have, things of that nature. Now, there are, the next bit here to think about is the graduate research plan. So you get 2 pages to outline a proposed course of study, a research plan. But one thing I should emphasize, especially if you're early on, you're maybe an undergraduate who's thinking about graduate school, and maybe you're working in a lab right now or have done time in an RAU, this is not necessarily what you intend to do. It's meant as a chance for you to put down ideas and show how you would think through a problem and how you would propose experiments, but you're not signing up to do this necessarily. It's meant to just allow you a chance to show off. Also very important and weighed equally is this a statement on personal relevant background and your future goals. So there you've got 3 pages, and there you describe essentially what you've done so far and what you hope to do, and in some way how this fellowship might help you get there. And then of course, we would need to see transcripts from any program that you've been in that would grant a degree, and 2 or 3 letters of reference. And one thing that's great about the portal and the way we do this regarding those letters of reference, you can list up to 5 people to provide a letter of recommendation for you. We need to have 2 in order to have the application reviewed. If 3 come in, they'll be reviewed, but you're allowed to rank them so that those that you think are most meaningful, you rank toward the top. They're the ones that are going to be most likely reviewed. If something happens, your reference writers may have the best intentions in the world, but run into a problem and miss the deadline. Well, if you've got more than the required number of letter writers available and they've provided letters, then you'll just go, the reviewers will just go down to the next one. So it's a great thing to think about. The flip side to that, though, is you'll need to start thinking early about who's most appropriate to provide a letter of reference. Okay, next slide. Apologies, this is a little busy here, but on the left side, we've got, if you squint a bit, you can see that we've got a flow chart, and just the important, some of the important things here. We've got a timeline, and the application portal, the applications will open up in July. And so you can jump in there, you can start filling out information. The deadlines themselves are not until October. And the precise day that your application is due is based upon the particular area that you're in. So, engineering might fall on one day and mathematics on another, and the social sciences on a third. The reference letters are due a couple of weeks beyond that. And then we managed to pull things together and recruit reviewers. They will get access starting in late December. And then early in January, they'll come together and discuss applications and recommend things. Ultimately, we recommend certain fellowships for funding. The notice goes out, of funding goes out in early April, and then the folks get, the fellows get about a month to decide whether or not they're going to accept. Now, a couple of quick things about, and here I'm shifting to look at the right side of the slide here, a couple of things. One thing you should know is that we consider applications from people who are at different stages. The first so-called level is those who are undergraduate seniors or have earned a baccalaureate degree, but have never gone on to a graduate program. And then it steps on up from there. So first year graduate students who have just started in graduate school, those who have been in for up to 1 full year, and then folks who might have had some time off and are returning. The reason that I point this out is that if you are an undergraduate, you might think it's unfair if your application is going to be compared alongside people who've been in graduate school for over a year. This is a way to sort of level the playing field a little bit. So there's sort of an in-group comparison. And then a couple of things to remember. It's restricted to US citizens, nationals, or permanent residents. And there are restrictions in terms of what you study. It's STEM fields or STEM education. It's for full-time study in a US institution. And it can be at the master's level or the PhD level, but these are sort of research-based programs, not things like an MD or a master's of social work or something like that. Okay, next slide. So that's just an overview of the application process and the application itself. Now here's the pitch for everybody else. Of course, as I mentioned, applicants are going to need to write letters. And if you're asked, if you're in a position to provide a letter, we do hope that you agree to it. And we have a section of this website that I'll mention here again in a minute, but it's specific to the GRFP. It's nsfgrfp.org. There's a section there specifically for reference writers, and it gives you information about what we're looking for and how you might build out a strong letter of reference. And then on the right side here, we do have a place where you can get information on how to be a reviewer. So if you have, for example, an earned terminal degree, you've got, for example, a PhD, and you're beyond the postdoctoral stage, consider coming in, as Dr. Norman mentioned. A great way to understand how the process works and how you might recommend or how you might mentor people through the process is to actually see it from the inside and know about the research, the review process. That information again is on this nsfgrfp.org site. And just in closing, again, Graduate Research Fellowship Program. If you're looking for additional information, there at the bottom is the .org site that I was talking about, but there's also a lot of other information that's available on the .gov site. That's nsf.gov/GRFP. And that includes deadlines, the solicitation, all of that. And if you require additional information, you can't find it there, then we do have this specific mailbox, info@nsfgrfp.org, and you can send questions on there, and folks will give them the attention they deserve. So I think that's about it. And so perhaps we open up for questions.
Great, thanks for that, Joel. Great programs. There is a Q&A, one open question. It is for the NSF EHR Racial Equity Grant. For clarification, we can apply now until the second Tuesday in October 2022 and second Tuesday in March 2023.
Yes, that's correct.
Great. So we'll open it up to the floor for any questions that anyone might have. I think there was one, let's see, in the chat. Let's see. Where should I get started if I do not have a small company right now? So to apply to the program, you don't actually need a small company. What happens when you apply to the SBIR program, you submit your pitch, and if you get an invite for the idea, you get an with that invitation, they point you to the direction where you start doing your company registrations. The registrations are free to do. We have information on our website that walks you through how to do those registrations. Tells you what you need. You need, EIN. Sometimes your local small business development centers, or even there may be some small business administration resources in your area to also help you with those. We do have NSF at SBIR, SBIR at nsf.gov is a great resource as well, once you are on the path to applying to the program and writing that full-fledged proposal. So Alex asked a question, what about agriculture, biochar, and beneficial microbes? So we've covered a lot of ground, and I'm trying to figure out which context that goes into. So Alex,
Pretty sure
maybe.
that's a GRFP question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an interesting and not precisely straightforward question. I must apologize because I tend to turn everything into an essay question. But agriculture is one of those areas that where there's a bit of nuance. So first of all, I'll say if you have any questions about the appropriate areas, I would go to the solicitation. You can find the solicitation on either one of those sites, and it will give you some detail. But and I'm going to ask Dr. Norman to check me on this. Oh, I should have mentioned Dr. Norman's also a program director for GRFP, so she knows everything actually. So with agriculture, if it's specific to improving crop yields, no, it's viewed as being applied and not within the area that NSF would fund. But there are other areas having to do with plants and plant pathology that would actually be considered appropriate. So I would, and things like beneficial microbes, potentially depending upon the approach and what the actual goal is. So related to that, so NSF does not support work to improve crop yields. It doesn't support work that would improve patient health. But if you're talking about categorizing someone's, for example, microbial flora, depending upon the approach you used, it might very well be. So it's really important to go in, look at the solicitation, sort of tease it apart, and trying to figure out what would be appropriate for funding and what might be more appropriate for something like NIH.
Great. So then another question, how old are companies normally when they apply for an NSF grant, and do patents help in being accepted? So companies can be anywhere from 0 to 10 years. We typically less than 10 years. There isn't really any critical mass or critical number of years that we're looking at. This could be a graduate student that is spinning out a technology out of their research lab that they had worked on for their PhD thesis, and sometimes these are people that have, gone from their undergraduate degree, done some science in industry, and then they're like, wait, I've learned a lot. I think I want to start a company around some technology that I've been thinking about as a result of my experiences in life. So it's very, very much open. And then because this ties in, also does the grant cover employee pay? Patents, sorry, yes. So, patents are not a requirement, new technology is, but the ability to be able to sort of, protect what you have to a certain extent from easily being, just scooped up by potentially another industry partner. So, oftentimes the de minimis is at least some kind of maybe provisional filing, but that's still not necessary, because it could be just the inception of an idea. It hasn't been reduced to practice, and that's what you're going to do in the phase 1, which might then result in a provisional. So the patent landscape, isn't something that is very super heavily weighted. It is something that maybe differentiates one company from another, but it's not a requirement. And then does the grant cover employees pay as well, or is it just research and product production? So the idea is that in the budget, you actually have personnel that are W-2 employees at the company. And if you think about the PI would have at least 1 month minimum per every 6 months of the project time, and that would be your employee pay. And so how you pay for the other potential hours, because it is a part-time grant, is something that one has to consider how they might do that. They might be supplementing it. They might use the profit fee to help cover sustenance. They may be donating time to the company and saying that they can actually live off of this. They might be able to find some angel investors in their community that are willing to supplement. They may apply for 2 different SBIR grants. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that people kind of work around having that sort of employment critical mass in their salary. And then, sorry, one more question. Do they support renewable energy alternatives such as new wind turbine designs? Yeah, so we have an energy technologies portfolio and also an environmental technologies portfolio. So yes, you know, we are the applied science section. As Joel said, it's not applied science at GRFP, but we're the ones that take whatever the investigations would be there and see if they can be applied, right? So that's the goal of our program. And so, you know, I encourage you to actually visit our awards database. So if you go type into Google NSF awards database, it will actually be the very first Google hit. And you can go in there and search by keyword like wind turbines, and you can get a flavor for what we funded in the past. And so that gives you an idea of how different, because still your technology should be different enough or should have a value proposition or something that's better than what's out there. It should be better. We should be moving towards like better technology is the goal. And so then another question, organic environmental is awesome and very low cost. That's Alex. I think that's for you, Joel, and you, Narkisha.
I should say that I painted that with a very broad brush. It's talking about applied because, of course, GRFP funds, you know, hundreds of engineers every round. So it's applied in certain areas. So, anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting line. So I would say that when you think about like applied yet on the fundamental side, it's something that really there isn't a lot of data to support what this premise is, right? So there isn't a bunch of literature around it, you know, things like that. So you're really filling a fairly large knowledge gap in that applied engineering space. Whereas in SBIR, that gap shouldn't be that big. It should have been sort of made a little bit smaller. So that's kind of the trajectory. And PFI tries to narrow that knowledge gap. There's definitely more there's more belief that this could work. It increases the probability that what you're doing could work at scale, and then go on. So any questions that, Narkisha, do you have for people? Like we have like a minute or two left. I can stay a little later since we had a couple of hiccups.
I'd just like to say that that we at NSF welcome those questions, especially, you know, that us three are here because we're available for your questions, not only the questions that you might have right now, but the questions that you might have later. So I mentioned that the way they ask racial equity, program description, team questions, but also GRFP, we have a whole operations center designed to make sure that those questions are answered. So feel free to, if you can't think of your question now, to please keep us in mind for questions later.
Yeah. And then for those of you who are here and then who are watching this as a recording, I'm typing, hopefully that we can get the emails. And so you can email me because what I do offer is after every one of these sort of interactive sessions we have, you can reach out to me and I will hold office hours where I can get critical mass of people who are interested in actually doing a session individually with me. I'd be happy to host that. So please do email me if you're interested in such of an opportunity, and I will gather all the names and then reach out to you back with a time. So
NSF headquarters is in Alexandria, Virginia.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, National Science Foundation, everyone there. I can get you the list of all the registrants, the attendees today, and we can get all the information out so that everyone can have their questions answered. Thank you all for joining. And if you need anything, reach out and we will be in touch.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Goodbye.